I want to welcome back GOP strategist Aaron Perini from Axiom Strategies, and also with us Democratic strategist Joel Rubin, former Deputy Assistant Secretary of State during the Obama administration. Okay, goody. We're going to talk about all of this. Aaron, I know you were with us, obviously, last hour when we received news. How much of a win is this for the Trump campaign, especially on the heels of that very incoherent debate by, of course, President Biden?
This is a very solid win for the president. Even the notion that there was some level of immunity that he could have in this instance, and that there is time to figure out what was an official or an unofficial act. For Donald Trump, this case was already going to likely be delayed beyond the election should it have moved forward, and now it definitely will. To Blake's point, as he was saying, Democrats were really hoping to have the theater of a courtroom surrounding Donald Trump all the way through the election, and they're not going to get that now. Couple that with Joe Biden's disastrous debate performance. Again, to Blake's point, this has been a very solid few days for Donald Trump, Republicans, and his campaign, as Joe Biden had a terrible debate performance. And now we're seeing that Donald Trump will not be in a courtroom as of this juncture before the election.
Yeah, this is, I mean, obviously, there are some people who are watching this and trying to make sense of it all, Joel. But I think that, from one comment that we're getting from our sources there at the Supreme Court, the justices decided that former President Trump was presumptively immune for pressuring Vice President Mike Pence at the time, which is one of the specific charges that Jack Smith had zeroed in on. Does that make sense to you, having served in a cabinet yourself?
Well, starting with the last question first, Adrian, it's great to be with you. I guess this now means that President Biden has the right to stay in office after this election, regardless of what the American people want, if he pressures through his official office to stay in, right? I mean, that's essentially what the Supreme Court is saying. So this is a frightening moment for American democracy. We should understand that our leaders are not allowed to conduct coups to stay in office, kind of a basic elemental fact of American life in the constitutional republic as we have it, or at least as we had it up until this moment. And I am worried about the future because of this ruling. And I think to the bigger picture, look, when Donald Trump was at the debate the other night, I know there's a lot of focus on Joe Biden, as there should be. He's the sitting president. Why not? And it was a hard debate. Donald Trump didn't exactly win that debate. He was gaslighting the American people, lying about his record, misrepresenting facts to the level of dozens, overstating his successes in such a way that if you looked at the numbers afterwards in fundraising, Joe Biden more than doubled the intake of money after that debate over Donald Trump. So there is certainly a lot of concern because, oh my God, the sitting president has a lot more on his plate than just preparing for a debate, unlike Donald Trump. But, this is not the first time a sitting president has had a rough first debate. And I think that we're seeing the Democratic Party very clearly understanding the stakes. And if there was ever a reminder, it's rulings like today, as well as those on Friday by the Supreme Court that essentially are trying to overturn the constitutional laws as we have known them for all of our lives.
Well, I want to stay focused on this Supreme Court decision. But since you brought it up, Joel, do you have concerns that the sitting president of the United States, not just performing in a debate, but actually seeming to have some cognitive issue, could stand to stay in office for 4 years? Do you have concerns surrounding his capability or his health?
Not at all. Look, he's been doing his job for 3.5 years at an exquisite level. He led the fight to end COVID. He's rebalancing our economy to impressive levels of unemployment at the lowest in 50 years. Restored American global leadership, rebuilt coalitions against Russia and dealing with China. It was clearly a hard night. But I've been a candidate before, Adrian. This is not a simple process when you run for office. And a lot of the people who are calling for him to step down have never put their foot in the arena. Winning a presidential campaign is about a lot more than just one debate in 90 minutes. And I think the president, he's demonstrated since that debate, as well as over 3.5 years, that we have very little to worry about. And in fact, look at Donald Trump and what he was saying. It made no sense at all on Thursday night, but he's getting a free pass, unfortunately.
Do you see, Aaron, as this being a free pass, or do you think that there is a lot more to it in terms of this Supreme Court decision, sending it back to a lower court, and then actually saying something like this? Judge John G. Roberts writing that former President Trump is at least presumptively immune from prosecution for such conduct, meaning his discussions with Vice President Pence leading up to those dates on January 6th and after that to discuss their official responsibilities. As they do that, they engage in official conduct. Is this likened to a coup, in your opinion?
Absolutely not. And to my Democratic counterpart who's sitting there talking about gaslighting, that was a performance on your part there. And I mean that with all due respect. You want to talk about Joe Biden building coalitions. The reason Russia is even in Ukraine is because of the geopolitical failures of Joe Biden when it comes to Nord Stream 2. So let's not try to rewrite geopolitical history to try and spin a terrible debate performance and the failure of 3.5 years. I did say this earlier, and I think it holds water. Previously, all of this old age stuff was baked into polling. People understood. But what they saw was a president who could not stand up there for 90 minutes and gave a cognitively sound debate performance where he could debate the ideology, the principles, and the policies, all of which he failed to do. He said we beat Medicare. If you are Joe Biden, you are in an absolute disastrous position right now. If you are Donald Trump, believe me, the media was yearning to go after Donald Trump for his debate performance. They want to be able to hit him. And they were unable to do so because he stayed in his space. The muted mics actually kept Donald Trump much more focused, much more disciplined, and he did deliver a strong debate performance. I'm not mincing words here, and I'm not going to pretend I'm a cheerleader for one side of the, for more of any of this. But what I am saying is that Democrats are in a huge bind right now. And so trying to gaslight and say that Joe Biden should serve more is lying to the American people. And we should expect more from both sides of the aisle than that kind of political hot air.
So I got to say, Donald Trump does benefit from, as President Bush said, and I worked in this administration, the soft bigotry of low expectations. I understand that. But, you know, to your point about Russia makes no sense. Donald Trump is a sycophant of Vladimir Putin and is the one that enabled Putin.
Joe Biden capitulated on the Nord Stream 2
Aaron, let's let him speak.
I allowed you.
You cannot tell me that is not why they were in Ukraine. Ooh, this is geopolitical nonsense.
I have to say that this is clearly, it got under your skin that Donald Trump is a sycophant of Vladimir Putin. And I don't think anybody doubts that.
In fact, gaslighting the American people about why the Ukraine war happened. That's what got under my skin.
We have to bring it back because we can't talk over each other. I like the passion. I like the passion. I just don't want you guys talking over each other.
An attack. But I do think that, Aaron, unfortunately, a lot of Republican leaders disagree with you as well regarding Russia. And let's just be blunt right here. Biden. 3.5 years of accomplishment versus 3.5 years of $8 trillion of new debt, a COVID disaster, global isolation by the United States. I think that for Democrats, when we look at Joe Biden, nobody's saying that this was a strong debate. What we're saying is that this is a moment that you don't throw out the baby with the bathwater, to use another phrase. This is a moment where Joe Biden had a rough night, doubt, fundraising spiked to a level they hadn't seen the whole campaign in the early hours afterwards. And this is a man who's earned the ticket, the nomination, and he's going to be just fine. And you look at Donald Trump in that debate. Let's just review the record there for a little bit to see all the lies that he threw out on the plate. It was overwhelming. I actually can't blame Joe Biden for being a little bit stunned by the quantity of lies that he had to deal with.
I think he was more than stunned, Joel. I think that you have to be fair here, Joel. I mean, even the fact that his wife had to lead him off the stage. I'm not saying it was a great debate
performance.
It wasn't stunned.
But I think I understand why people want to overread a debate performance that was one that they maybe had higher expectations. But Donald Trump gets a free pass. Why is that?
No, let's not give anybody a free pass. But what I do want to say is I want to ask a question just back to the topic at hand, the news of the day. The Supreme Court of the United States deciding to send this back to a lower court. Does this embolden the Democratic Party, coupled with the fact that Thursday was not a 10 out of 10? Does this embolden the party to rethink their strategy, as there is some fracturing, at least some evidence of it, with some Democrats saying they do want President Biden replaced at the top of the ticket, and others saying, no, he is definitely our nominee?
Well, look, I mean, he won the votes of the Democratic voters If those who are calling for him to step aside get their way, they are basically saying, party elites, you step in and throw out the will of the voters of the Democratic Party and just do it behind closed doors, which is an inherently anti-democratic process. That's not what we're about. But this is a great day to remind voters, once again, what's at stake in this election. You know, for Democrats, the key to winning in November is about mobilization. It's about the broad electorate understanding that it's their future, our future, mine and yours, that is at stake right now in this election. And we saw the last 3.5 years of a significant amount of progress from a Democratic perspective, investment in infrastructure at $2 trillion. I could go on and on. But that progress will run into a brick wall if it's stopped and Donald Trump is reelected into office. And the Supreme Court is demonstrating it wants to kind of overturn every Democratic agenda item that we have in our arsenal. And I think that's going to focus the mind of voters to move on from this debate, this internal scrum about overthrowing what our primary voters want, and moving forward to think about how to mobilize people to get out the vote in November.
Well, we don't have enough time to fact check both sides right now, but I will say this, that finally we end on something that both of you agree on, that President Biden will be the nominee come November. You both have said that on the air today, so I'm going to leave it there with some measure of unity, what little we have here. Erin Perini, Joel Rubin, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Adrian.